I have been testing e-ink digital notebooks for years now, and these are the 4 best digital e-notebooks I've tested this year. And stay around to the end of the video to see which one is my overall pick. Before we get into the number 4 pick, I do want to say each of these was given to me by the respective brand. And then number 2, I do have a paid link down in the description and the top comment if you decide one of these is right for your application. Now, starting things off with number 4, this is the Penstar eNote 2. This is a follow-up to an e-ink tablet that I had tried before and wasn't overly impressed with. This newer version is considerably better, making it my favorite pick for a best budget option for an e-ink digital notebook. Sitting well south of $400, I have been really impressed with the home screen layout on this. It's more like a smartphone than pretty much any other e-ink digital notebook I have tried, and is really easy to navigate for most people. It is also the most open digital notebook I have tried out, as you can install pretty much any APK you can download. However, it doesn't have the Play Store, but it is incredibly easy to install applications that you can get an APK for. I also really liked how good its price was for what you get. The hardware on this is pretty impressive with a really good processor, much better than the previous version. It's a really good size, and if you put it up against any other tablet, it actually is a really good deal. Now, while we are going to get to the downsides of it in just a moment, I do want to point out that the side buttons on this do work really well. They are completely mappable, meaning no matter what you're doing in the tablet, you can kind of set those side buttons up to be able to work in the best way possible for you. Now, the reason why you have to have those side buttons is my biggest downside to this tablet, in the fact that it's also the only one on this list that doesn't have touch. You have to use the included stylus to be able to use anything on the screen. And if you're not using the stylus, you can use those side buttons I talked about earlier. But to speak to why they decided not to go with touch, each extra functionality, such as a front light, which this also doesn't have, and touch adds a layer on top of the screen, making it more difficult to read and more space in between the end of your stylus and the screen itself, making it feel a little bit less like paper. So Penstar decided to not go with multi-touch so that it was more paper-like. But the downside to that being, to be able to use the screen, you have to have the stylus, making it a little bit more annoying when you're doing something like reading a book. And then you just have to rely on the buttons. Continuing on with the downsides of the tablet, I'm not a huge fan of the stylus. It feels much cheaper than any other tablet on this list. It's a little bit flimsy, and the side button, while pretty cool that it can be mapped, is really kind of annoying. I constantly am accidentally touching it, so I had to completely deactivate that button. Otherwise, I was accidentally deleting things all the time. Now, number 3 is the Super Note Manta. This was a tablet that I was incredibly impressed with. I think the sizing is really good on it. It's great for lots of notes. It is also a really good artwork tablet, as it actually can be used as a drawing tablet for your computer, but it also has its own dedicated artwork program that works way better than any other tablet on this list. Now, if you're somebody that also prefers a more ballpoint pen style writing, this is the one to get it, as it has a little bit more of a gummy display, making the stylus feel a little bit more like a pen rather than a pencil, like the other tablets on this list. I really do like the stylus that Super Note has. It's a partnership with Lamy, and it works really well. It doesn't have any added functionality like some of the other ones on this list, but it is also the most, honestly, pen-like of any other ones. I also appreciated the half folio. It made it so that this tablet is incredibly thin. In fact, it's thinner than the Nomad, which is their smaller version, because it doesn't have any rear folio. And while the operating system on this tablet is a little bit archaic feeling, I am getting more and more used to it every day that I use it, so I'm putting that more in the pros than in the cons. Unlike a lot of other of these e-ink tablets that have a closed system, this does have the ability to sideload applications. They are a little bit more difficult, and I actually was never able to successfully do it, but it is able to do it. However, they do have preloaded applications, including Kindle, which is a big downside of a lot of other tablets that you'll find later on this list. So if you are a Kindle reader, I would recommend getting this one or the Penstar from earlier on. Now, jumping into the downsides I had with the Manta, the first one being the screen on it feels a little bit darker than it should be, and that probably comes down to the extra layers that you have for multi-touch like this tablet does have. It feels a lot darker than a normal piece of paper. So in low light situations, considering you don't have any lighting on this tablet, it is harder to read than just a normal book or piece of paper. I also noticed specifically on the Manta that there just is a lot more reflection on the screen, making it a little more difficult to read than a normal piece of paper. I also did randomly find this thing is a little bit more prone to damage than my other tablets, as pretty much right after I got it, I put a ding in it. But outside of that, I haven't had a ton of damage, but the plastic seems to be a little bit softer than maybe it should have been. But of course, if you had it be more stronger, it might be a little more brittle rather than dentable. Before we move on to the last two best e-ink digital notebooks, I do want to invite you to subscribe if you found this video at all helpful. I'm going to have a lot more of these coming out here soon, so stay around and like this video as it helps me out in the algorithm. So number 2 brings me to the remarkable Paper Pro. This is an incredibly awesome tablet, but it's also incredibly expensive. I put this as the best option for a professional, somebody that is using their tablet at their desk all the time and wants a distraction-free writing and typing experience. As it doesn't really have any of those like fun kind of side things that you can do like Kindle or drawing applications. Yes, it has a color e-ink display that a lot of the other tablets don't have, but there's no dedicated art app and there's no real good way of reading books. You can only upload EPUB books that are DRM free, which is actually pretty hard to find a good way to get those at the moment. Now, as for the writing experience on this, it is the best I've had on any tablet. It is the most pencil kind of like writing experience. The stylus on it is incredible. It's really, really well weighted. I have the Marker Plus version. It has an eraser on the other side, so you just spin the stylus around and you can be erasing just like a normal pencil. And unlike the Super Note, this is a little bit more like a pencil rather than a ballpoint pen. So you're not feeling as gummy, you're feeling a little bit more like paper. And I really do like that experience personally. And the thing that Remarkable does the best with, other than, being a really fast, really expensive, essentially notebook, is the templates on this thing. There are so many template options on this. And if you go with their paid online service, it actually unlocks a whole nother section of templates where third-party people can upload templates, first party. It is really, really impressive. And this definitely has the best templates. If you truly are looking to replace just a notebook, this is a really good way of doing it. But it also can replace your online word processor with a distraction-free typing experience, as you can get a typing folio unlike any of the other tablets on this list. And it actually is a really good typing experience that I was impressed with. It's a pretty compact keyboard, but I really didn't feel like I was restricted in any way when using it. And finally, unlike the other tablets we've talked about on this list, it does have a front lit display, which means that you can turn up and down a light, so you can use this in the dark if you need to. However, you'll find most of the time you're using that front light to aid you in less than ideal lighting situations to make it just a little bit easier to see. Now, as for downsides to this, because it is a very, very closed system, it really is meant to replace just a notebook and not a phone and not a computer or any of those things. It is really closed when it comes to applications. There really is no third-party support. You can't download and install APKs or any of that, which means it also doesn't have the Kindle application, which makes this a pretty bad e-reader. Even though it's a really cool color e-ink display, you can't read books on it, which is really annoying, which means you have to have a Kindle or some other tablet to read your ebooks on, and then also this, and it's a bit of a bummer. And also its massive size is also, I would say, a detractor for it as well. While you have a ton of screen real estate to be able to draw and type on, it makes it really hard to carry around. It really feels like you're carrying around a laptop. It's more difficult to fit into accessory parts of your backpack. It's really heavy, especially if it has the typing folio on it. And I found I left this on my desk when I was out and about, rather than taking it with me like I would with a normal notebook. Which leads me to the number 1 pick of digital e-notebooks that I have ever used, and it is the one that I actually would normally daily drive, and that is the Remarkable Paper Pro Move, which is the smaller version of the original Paper Pro. I wish they had used a better name for it, but that is what we're doing here. This is a smaller version of the Paper Pro. Essentially, its height is the same width as the original Paper Pro, so it is a much more compact version of the tablet. Really, its only differences to the original Paper Pro is it does have a lesser processor and a smaller size, and it's ever so slightly thicker than the original Paper Pro because they have to, fit all the tech into something, but it's not noticeably thicker. Getting into what I like about it, just like the Paper Pro, is it has incredibly high quality build quality. It is full metal. It is impressive. It feels like you're unboxing the latest iPhone when you're getting this thing out, and I am super impressed with it. It is very, very durable. I don't have any problems taking it with me on the go and feeling like it's going to break on me. It is just impressive how good quality the screen is, the body is, and everything. I also think the price point on this, being considerably lower than the larger version, makes it a lot more compelling for most people. And its sizing also probably makes it more compelling, as it's something that you're going to use both at your desk, but you can also take it on the go, as I can actually fit this thing in my back pocket without any concerns. I can't fit in my front pocket, but things like keys and my phone are in those pockets anyways. But it also is easier to put into smaller backpacks, and you can hold it with one hand. As its sizing is very much like a journalist notebook, you can put it in one hand and write with the other, while still being incredibly comfortable. And in fact, the stylus that comes with it is backwards compatible with the original Paper Pro, and that stylus is really, really good. It has a really good weight to it, and I like it a lot. It is definitely the best stylus of any tablet I've ever used, even if the tips of the stylus do need replaced pretty regularly. Now, what are the two biggest downsides to this tablet? Number one is you can feel pretty quickly that it has a downgraded processor to the original Paper Pro, especially when you use them back to back. The Paper Pro Move is a little bit slower, especially when you get into bigger documents like a calendar that has 365 pages. As I found, as you were kind of surfing through those pages, sometimes it would just decide to not move, and then it would jump like 4 or 5 pages and you'd have to find your way back to the page you were trying to get to, just because the processor has a hard time keeping up with such large files. But that only happened every once in a while, and I still feel like this is an incredibly usable tablet. And the only other thing that I don't like about this tablet, and it's the same thing with the original version, is it doesn't have Kindle support. I understand when you buy a Kindle book, it is not actually your book. Amazon can take it away however they want, but there's no way around getting that. You can get Kindle books from the library, you can buy them. They're all really, really well sorted. Easiest way to be able to read ebooks. So not having support for Kindle on a platform that is so good is just a huge detractor for me. Meaning I don't recommend this for anybody that is an avid reader and likes to read books a lot. This truly is somebody that's wanting to replace notebooks and calendars, but none of your like fun side of things. More work related than fun related. If you are interested in more e-ink digital notebooks, I definitely recommend checking out my full review of the Supernote Manta right here.